Dark chocolate occupies a unique and somewhat controversial position in discussions about brain-healthy foods. On one hand, there's legitimate research showing that cocoa polyphenol may support cognitive function and potentially influence ND+ metabolism pathways. On the other hand, chocolate is candy, and we need to be very careful about how we frame a food that's high in sugar and calories as a health food. Let's unpack this carefully. The beneficial compounds in dark chocolate are primarily flavonoids, particularly epicatechin and other polyphenol found in cocoa. These compounds have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, and some research suggests they may activate cellular stress resistance pathways, potentially including sirtuins, which are ND+ dependent enzymes involved in longevity and metabolic regulation. There's also evidence that cocoa flavonoids improve cerebral blood flow, which supports nutrient and oxygen delivery to the brain. Some studies in humans have shown that dark chocolate consumption is associated with better cognitive performance and mood, though these effects are typically modest and the studies often have methodological limitations. The mechanisms could involve direct effects of flavonoids on brain tissue, or indirect effects through improved vascular function and reduced oxidative stress that help preserve NAD+ levels. However, we need to be extremely cautious about promoting chocolate as a health food. First, even dark chocolate contains significant amounts of sugar and saturated fat. A typical 1-ounce serving of 70% dark chocolate contains about 170 calories, 7 grams of sugar, and substantial saturated fat. For someone trying to manage their weight or metabolic health, eating chocolate regularly could be counterproductive regardless of any polyphenol benefits. The percentage of cocoa matters enormously. A 70% dark chocolate bar is very different from a 50% bar, which is basically milk chocolate marketed as dark chocolate. The higher the cocoa percentage, the more polyphenol and the less sugar, but also the more bitter and less palatable. Most people find 85 to 90% dark chocolate unpleasantly bitter, which limits practical consumption of the most beneficial forms. There's also tremendous variability in chocolate quality and processing. Many commercial dark chocolate products are processed in ways that destroy much of the flavonoid content. A process called Dutching or alkalization makes chocolate less bitter, but dramatically reduces polyphenol levels. You need to choose chocolate that specifically states it's non-alkalized or minimally processed, and these products are expensive and not widely available. The sugar content in chocolate, even dark chocolate, triggers blood glucose responses that cause inflammation and oxidative stress. For people with insulin resistance or diabetes, eating chocolate regularly could worsen metabolic dysfunction, potentially negating any brain benefits from the polyphenol. The insulin spike and subsequent crash also affect mood and energy levels, creating a roller coaster effect that's not compatible with stable brain energy metabolism. Chocolate also contains caffeine and theobromine, which are stimulants. While modest amounts might enhance alertness, excessive consumption can cause anxiety, sleep disruption, and dependence. Poor sleep is devastating to brain health and NAD+ metabolism. Sleep deprivation depletes NAD+ levels significantly. If eating chocolate in the evening interferes with sleep quality, the net effect on brain health is likely negative. Let's talk about the psychological dimension too. Promoting chocolate as a health food can create problematic relationships with food where people rationalize overconsumption. I've heard countless variations of "it's good for me" as people eat half a chocolate bar. The hedonic properties of chocolate, the pleasure and reward response it triggers, can lead to addictive type behaviors in susceptible individuals. The environmental and ethical issues in chocolate production are severe. Much cocoa farming involves child labor, poverty-level wages, and environmental destruction. Fair trade and ethical certifications exist, but they increase costs, and not all certifications are meaningful or well enforced. The true human cost of chocolate production is often hidden from consumers. Heavy metal contamination is also a concern with chocolate. Recent testing has found concerning levels of cadmium and lead in many dark chocolate products, including from premium brands. Cadmium accumulates in cocoa plants from soil, and lead can come from processing and packaging. Chronic exposure to these metals is neurotoxic, the opposite of what we're trying to achieve for brain health. For people with migraine disorders, chocolate is a known trigger. The tyramine content and other compounds can precipitate migraine attacks in susceptible individuals. The oxalate content in chocolate is also very high, which is problematic for people prone to kidney stones. The realistic recommendation, and I want to be very clear about this, is that dark chocolate should be viewed as an occasional treat that might have some health benefits, not as a staple of a brain-healthy diet. If someone chooses to include it, it should be high-quality, minimally processed dark chocolate with at least 70% cocoa content, consumed in small amounts, 1/2 to 1 ounce, a few times per week maximum. In conclusion, dark chocolate contains polyphenol that may offer modest support for brain health and potentially influence NAD+ metabolism pathways, but the sugar content, caloric density, variable quality, heavy metal contamination, and ethical concerns mean it should be approached with caution. It's not a food to emphasize or rely on for brain health support, despite what wellness marketing might suggest.